Hello everyone and welcome to Stitch Trek, a show where we talk about, make, discuss, and figure out how to affordably create Star Trek costumes. Today, as indicated by my white wig, I'm going to be making a costume from the episode The Man Trap. I decided to make a slight change to the lineup of my idea. I might cheat a little bit and I'm changing the order. I decided that there are costumes that, according to my production speed, because I work a real job every day, 9 to 5, and sometimes even longer if it snows, because I plow. At this rate, I'm not going to get to a lot of the great costumes I want to make for like 20 years, you know? How long is it going to take me to get all the way through TOS and onto TNG? You know, it's going to be forever. So if I feel the calling, I might skip ahead a little bit. But I am going to still try my best to stick to TOS and work my way through like I said I was going to. However, I also decided I'm not going to make costumes by production date order. I'm going to make them by air date order because that's the order in which most people watch them on Paramount Plus or on the box sets that people own. And I just want people to be able to watch along in order, I guess. So, I don't know, it just made more sense that way. And frankly, I was also really excited to make this costume. So, reasons, it's my show, I can do what I want. So that means that because I've already done Where No Man Has Gone Before, and that didn't air for a little while after the show began, I am now doing The Man Trap today, and my next episode will be Charlie X. My next costume making episode anyway. I'm gonna do some reviews in between and stuff like that. But that's what we're doing now. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you'll still stick around for this. This has been a lot of fun. And I'm frankly super flattered that anybody is watching my nonsense. Like, what am I doing? It's just because I love it. I love it so much. Well, seeing how today is going to be Man Trap, you know exactly what I'm making, right? I thought about making one of the 3 versions of the woman, but there's no avoiding the salt vampire. You have to be the salt vampire, right? Of course. So today we will be creating a furry and foam salt vampire costume, and I will show you step by step how to do that. The hard part that I couldn't figure out is that there's no real makeup part of this for me to talk about my thoughts about the episode, so I'm just gonna have to link that in throughout my commentary about making the costume, so we'll see how that goes. Hope you like it. But without further ado, let's get to the costume creation. Here's the package I got from Amazon, full of the faux fur. Here's some jute. I recommend 2 rolls of the very thick and rather thin. Here's the wig. It's long and a silvery white. This stuff has pretty deep pile, and there were mysterious silver tinsel threads in it. A nice phone call from my boyfriend. The first thing I'm going to do is fold the fur over so I don't have to cut as much. It also kind of controls the hair from flying around. There's going to be a lot of hair from this. I take a pair of pants that I think fit me nicely and a top. This is supposed to be slightly baggy, so it's okay if you leave large margins. Now just follow it up, over, and around. I cut it only up one side, fold it over, and then use that side as a stencil to cut out the other side. Now I use that as a stencil to do the underlayer. There's a trick when cutting, or there's a trick when dealing with faux fur that you shouldn't cut it, you should rip it to keep from creating such a furry mess. However, when you're doing shapes like this, you can't rip in curves. You can only rip in straight lines, so that doesn't work. I'm measuring for sleeves. Now I cut out a sleeve shape. Every time you make a sleeve, it's basically the same shape, unless you want the sleeve to be like a bell sleeve. So once you figure out how to do it once, you can figure out how to do it every time. Now I'm using the first sleeve to trace out the second sleeve. These are my sharpest scissors, but this stuff is still really thick and hard to cut. Sleeve! Voila! Here I am, just sewing the side of the sleeves closed. This is my most powerful machine. Now it's time to sew all of the seams. I sewed up the underside of the sleeves, thus closing the sleeves, attached the sleeve to the sleeve holes, and then sewed around the costume. I cut a small strip and added around the collar to make the collar higher so that it would hide my neck. Then I sliced an opening down the back of the costume. It is, however, time to start the mask so that it can dry thoroughly. I start with the eye area and added lenses from some old sunglasses, so you can't see my actual eye through the mask. Then I molded the features. This is a foam clay. It's very light and easy to work with. Now it's time to prep the shoes. There are a few versions of the Salt Monster's foot out there. One of them has claws. I think that model is standing in the entranceway of the Star Trek set tour in Ticonderoga, and I haven't seen that pictured anywhere else, this claw situation. In the episode, you don't really get a good view of the feet at all. So I searched the internet a little more and found a sketch that I think was done by the original concept artist from before the episode was actually made, when they were discussing what the monster would look like. And it seems to feature 2 large toes protruding from the foot area. So I guess that's what I'm gonna make. Anyway, here's my best attempt at that. Because it's just foam, it's probably not gonna want to stay affixed to the shoe all by itself very well. So I've got to make some anchors. I'm gonna super glue some strips of fabric to the bottom that'll wrap around up to the top and create more attachment points. I'm also going to thread a short piece of thick ribbon through the toe of the shoe, and that will also act as access points. The more I walk in this, the more it's going to want to shift and crack and fall off, and hopefully that will prevent a lot of that. While I'm working on this, I'm also going to make my hands. I'm just going to mold the fingers and then add the details later. I'm going to shake my hand out of the glove, and voila. See, here's the feet. Here's the claws I was talking about earlier. Here's somebody's costume from a cosplay, but then in the actual episode, you don't get a good view. So like I said, I'm going to go with the 2 toes. Remember to leave the laces exposed so you can tighten and loosen these shoes. And try not to crush the toe box down when you're molding this, or it'll be hard to get them on later. I'm just adding the detail of suction cups onto the fingers. I'm just splitting the toes into two. Sometimes it's beneficial to wait a moment, let the foam dry just a little more, and then add detail. Another great perk of using this stuff is that you can sand it after it's dried. A lovely camouflage green. I've taped over the eyes, of course. Now to paint in some details. Some highlights and lowlights, greens and greeny blues, a little yellowish hue, all add to the realism. The tops of the fingers have these joint marks. A few more finishing touches. Now this foam stuff isn't really made for motion, and I'm going to be holding things and trying to move my fingers. I know that may result in some cracking between the fingers, so I'm going to add a little faux reinforcement. The monster itself doesn't actually have this. It even has exposed palms, but I don't think I'm going to do that just for ease of putting this costume on. If I'm alone in a room trying to get these gloves on, it's going to be really hard already. I'm also going to add lace to the inside of the mask. This lace is going to act as an anchor for the straps that I'll be able to tie the mask on with. The reason to use lace instead of, per se, ribbon is that ribbon can pull out of the foam. Using the foam to anchor lace, the foam reaches through the perforated holes in the lace and adheres to the foam on the other side, making it really hard to pull the lace out. I've made some pointy teeth just out of rolled foam and glued them to the other side of the gum. I've also tied pieces of Velcro to the back and the laces of my sneakers. I'm attaching the opposite piece of Velcro to the front and the back of each pant cuff. That way it can be anchored in place, and when I lift and step, my shoe section that is not disguised will not be exposed. Trying it on, and it seems to fit real well. Now it's time to make the suits, well, I guess you'd call it a dress? And we drape the jute over the shoulder to get an idea of length. 6 pieces was enough for me. I draped 3 similar length pieces over each shoulder. Now I start to thread more jute through the 3 pieces over each shoulder. Why is that so hard to say? Around and around the body, creating the netted look. And if you notice where the 3 pieces of jute meet at the shoulder, I twisted them together so that it wouldn't constantly be falling off of my shoulder. Around and around I go. Now I'm going to glue different gloves to the inside of the fingers. The rubber gloves were really hot and very sweaty after a while. Sort of terrible to wear. So instead, I'm going to glue these velvet gloves, which are much more airy, to the inside of the fingers. That's just gel superglue, and it works pretty well. After it's been on for a few minutes, you can pretty much pull it right off. And then set it aside to dry. I've also added a rim of fur to the side of the mask. This is to hide the side of my face that may show if the wig were to move around a bit. Now I just run ribbon through the lace to use to tie to my head. Oh wait, before the reveal, let's run down this episode real quick. While I do this, I might as well show you some footage from our vacations this summer. You know, not distracting or anything. Well, the captain, Bones, and a blue shirt go to the planet of the week to meet up with a scientist stationed there. The scientist's wife, Nancy, is a lady that Bones used to date. Almost right away we're made aware that each man sees Nancy as a different woman. Bones sees his lovely brunette old flame. The blue shirt sees a lovely blonde bombshell he remembers meeting on a pleasure planet. And Kirk sees her as a lovely middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair that he's not met before. She excuses herself and leaves. The doctor, who's a specialist in archaeology, is annoyed that those from the Enterprise are there. He wants to be left to do his research. Kirk gets suspicious when Bones comments that Nancy hasn't aged at all, not a gray hair, but that's not how Kirk sees her. The blue shirt goes to wait outside and is met by the blonde Nancy, who leads him away. He's later found dead among the dunes. Apparently he'd eaten something he'd found outside. Rule number 1, don't eat stuff off the floor of alien planets. The Enterprise crew beam back to the ship where they quickly learn that all the salt is missing from this dead man's body. They decide to go back down to the planet again and ask some questions. This time they take a gold shirt and another blue shirt. The blue shirt is found dead by the archaeologist. He calls out to Nancy, saying that he has salt. We see a glimpse of her standing over the gold shirt, also dead. Then Nancy mimics his appearance and approaches the captain when he calls for the gold shirt. In this disguise, he's beamed aboard the Enterprise. Nancy now has full access to the ship. She interacts with many different crew members disguised as other crew members, all on the hunt for salty goodness. She finds McCoy's quarters and tells him that she doesn't trust the others and needs his protection. We also slowly learn that Nancy might have some sort of pheromone or something that makes her hard to resist. A crew person is found dead in the halls, again drained of salt. McCoy is called to the bridge, but Nancy has given him a sleeping tablet and lulls him to sleep. When he's out, she takes his form and heads to the bridge herself. Meanwhile, back on the planet, Kirk and Spock ask the archaeologist what's up with Nancy. They still think she's on the planet somewhere and is lost. They get a call about the dead man on the ship and find the body of the gold shirt, the one Nancy had mimicked to get aboard the ship. The gig is up. Kirk warns the ship of an intruder who might be disguised as the gold shirt. After a quick tussle, they get the archaeologist to admit that his actual wife died a while back, and that this new wife is actually a humanoid species that can mimic others and eats salt. It is the last of its kind, and has kept the archaeologist company for some time. But not much salt is left, so she's become desperate. They beam back to the ship. They have a meeting with Bones, who, remember, is actually the salt vampire in disguise, and the archaeologist. The two of them offer the idea of just giving the salt vampire what it wants, so it chills out. It's intelligent and can be reasoned with. This is my stance on this episode too. Every time I watched this episode, I wished that it ended with the salt vampire joining Starfleet and having adventures. But alas, Kirk argues that it's gotta go.
After the meeting, Spock is found, having been attacked by the salt vampire, but he lives because he's built differently than humans. Nancy, in her salt and pepper form, runs back to Bones, who awakes in his bed. She begs for help. Kirk enters and tells Bones it's not really Nancy, but a monster. It attacks the captain, and Spock double fist punches Nancy in the face to prove she's not human. Bones is convinced. Nancy goes back to trying to kill Kirk and reveals her true furry form. Bones shoots her. She begs him to let her live, but he shoots her again and she dies. The Enterprise heads out of town. The end. Here are my thoughts on this episode. The fact that the transporter can beam Nancy up while she's disguised as the gold shirt raises questions as to how the transporter works. Every time I think I've got it figured out. Uhura is pure gold in this episode. I adore her. The puppet plant. Gertrude, aka Bogart, amazing, love it, want it. I'll make this puppet someday. The Spock double punches are the best campy fighting nonsense. I adore it. My overview of this episode. I love it and I hate it. I love the idea. I love the action. The puppet plant, of course. This is early Trek, and we get some nice insight into the crew's personal lives. But I really wish that we'd gotten to see them convince a totally new species to join their ranks and voyage with them. I guess way back then, I was wishing for more of a Star Trek Beyond ending, but that's just me. If you disagree, tell me the ending you would have liked in the comments below. Okay, on with the finished costume reveal. Let's try this on. It's really big, and it's actually pretty heavy. I have a feeling this is going to be really warm. Well, I can put that part on by myself. And the Velcro's actually really easy to connect. Great! Oh my god, I love how this feels. It's really roomy and cozy. Time for the shoes. Let's see if they work. I'm attaching the Velcro to the front and now to the back. It seems to hold really well. Wow, I love the way this looks. I absolutely love the way this is coming together. I'm just tying the ribbon behind my head. It feels pretty secure. Ooh, beautiful. The cap area of this wig was nice and large, which I didn't expect, but it fit really well. Huzzah! Ta-da! Now let's see if I can get the gloves on all by myself. I cut a thumb hole a little bit up the sleeve, and I have to get the thumb through that hole. I took the glove off inside the sleeve, and I'm now trying to get it back on in the sleeve. And it worked! Wow! I feel so good about this costume. Okay, a little out of control with the wig. Here, yep. But my fingers are not too silly to fix it with. They're pretty useful, actually. This is so fun. I can't wait to use this somewhere. Triumph! Maybe it's Maybelline. I've got full movement. I could dance in this. I could party. I'm pretty sure I could even hold a cocktail with these fingers.
Oh my goodness. Everybody, that was amazing. I am very surprised how well the costume came together. This wig is outrageous. Yeah, surprising how easy that went together. I expected it to be a lot worse. The fake hair everywhere, it gets in your mouth, it gets in your eyes. I vacuumed the hell out of that costume. I've turned it inside out, back into the inside, turned it right side out, back in the outside, and no matter how much I seem to do it, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. So, downside, another downside that I'm going to have to figure out is the eyes have lenses behind them, so you can't see my real eyes through the eye holes. They kept fogging up. I thought that the big hole for the mouth would be enough to keep them from fogging up, and I was wrong. So I think I might either make this section separate and just try to breathe through my mouth, which is weird, or I might make a little, like a wall inside the mask, like build it up with foam to separate the top of my face from the lower half, just to promote the exhaled breaths exit through the breathing hole. And hopefully I can see better, because once those lenses fogged up, I really couldn't see very well at all. Another problem is it's very hot, very warm, which if you cruised on Norwegian with us, heat like was welcome, because that ship was cold. But on Royal Caribbean, it hasn't been as chilly. So wearing these big bulky costumes has been a little uncomfortable and warm. So yeah, warm, hair everywhere. Definitely don't put on chapstick and then put this on. You're gonna be eating it. What is happening upstairs? Definitely don't put on chapstick before you put it on if you make one of these. I mean, you'll see. As soon as you start cutting the fabric, have a vacuum right there, because that hair is going everywhere no matter how much you try to avoid it. And this is not something people are like, oh, you just rip it. When you're doing fake fur, you just rip it. No, you can't, because you're doing shapes. You can't just rip it straight lines and shapes. I like this costume so much, and I feel for this character, and I think she was very misunderstood. So I made a skit. So stay around after my little farewell to do that at the end of the episode. Well, I hope you had a lot of fun watching this. I had a ton of fun making it. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Live long and prosper. Kapla! And oh, hi! Hey, I don't think I've seen you around here before. You must be new to the crew. Welcome to the Enterprise, and welcome to the Replicator Cafe. My name is Brooke. I'll be your server. I see you've had a chance to look over the menu. Have you decided what drink you'd like to start with? What an interesting dietary restriction. I haven't seen that one before. But let me see what we have in our programming. Oh, actually it looks like we have 3 options for salt waters. You can start with a zesty salt water from the Atlantic Ocean of Earth, strained through an organic cheesecloth to remove the plankton. The second seems to be a beautiful glass of water from the seas of Europa, served with ice cubes mined from the planet's own surface. And the last looks like a lovely new offering, a glass of brackish water from the estuaries of the dwarf planet Ceres. Great choice. And for your entree, kosher Himalayan pink, red Hawaiian Celtic gray, or table. Perfect, that's fresh this season. Well, I'm gonna go put your order in. I'm gonna bring you over a nice little bowl of salted pretzels and start on your drink. Thank you for joining us this evening.